On today's episode, Daiwa announces new rods, new reels, and new line coming out at ICAST 2024, which we talk about in detail. We recap Major League Fishing Stage 6 and the Bassmaster Elite Series at Lewis Smith Lake, both with winners that are familiar faces to us here at Tackle Talk. And we answer your fishing questions about fishing difficult riffles and heavy current this time of year, soft plastic storage, pre-rigging your trailers, and more on today's episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
Welcome to the Tackle Talk podcast, brought to you by American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors. World-class fishing gear, unmatched personal service. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Talk podcast. We have a great episode for you today. We are back to talk about some brand new gear that will be hitting shelves sometime in the near future. But first, we have to give a big shout out to American Legacy Fishing, and you are in luck because right now they have their July 4th sales going on right now on the website, including 20% off all Dobbins rods, 30% off Shimano Poison Adrenas, 25% off all Fenwick rods. Yes, the rods we've talked about multiple times. A lot of you seem to have some interest in those. The brand new redesign of every Fenwick rod that just came out. They are now 25% off at American Legacy Fishing. They've also got 15% off Sunline Sniper, which is my favorite fluorocarbon on the planet. They have 30% off select G. Loomis E6X steelhead rods and more, ending July 11th. So you have a little under a week to take advantage of these sales over at American Legacy Fishing. Dobbins, Shimano, Fenwick, G. Loomis, Sunline, and more. And as always, if what you're looking for is not on sale, you can use code TACKLETALK10. That will save you 10% off almost everything on the website that's not already on sale. Some exclusions apply, but not many. Almost everything 10% off with code TACKLETALK10 from the best in the business. My favorite place to order fishing gear from, American Legacy Fishing. Again, www.americanlegacyfishing.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have to start off playing catch up over the past few weeks because we had Skeet Reese on 2 weeks ago, and then last week we had ASA President Glenn Hughes on, which means I owe you all a quick recap of two big tournaments that have happened over the past week or two, one from Major League Fishing and one from Bassmaster. So let's start with Major League Fishing. Major League Fishing and the Bass Pro Tour wrapped up Stage 6 at the James River in Virginia, June 25th through 30th, so a little over a week ago at this point, and this was their next to last event of the year, so valuable Angler of the Year points are on the line, as well as some folks' BPT careers in general, because if they fail to make the cut for next year, they're out of the BPT, so a lot of pressure for a lot of anglers for many different reasons. But with that being said, let's jump into your top 10 here in reverse order from the MLF Stage 6 at the James River. 10th place, Jonathan Van Dam. 9th place, Andy Montgomery. 8th place, Spencer Sheffield. 7th, Dylan Hayes. 6th place, Gerald Sporer. 5th place, Michael Neal. 4th place, Brian Thrift. 3rd place, Nick LeBrun. 2nd place, Jeff Sprague. And 1st place, a victory that was long overdue and couldn't have come at a more perfect time. The gentleman that was on this program, Tackle Talk, the day this tournament started, your Stage 6 champion, Skeet Reese.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lines out. Get your breath. Congratulations, Skeet. Just Bass Pro Tour.
Did I get it?
Stage 6, 20.
I got it?
Yes.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah! You never know when you're going to get a chance. If you're ever going to have a chance again to win. I'm a mess. Kim, Leah, Courtney, Mom, Dad, Jim, John, my family, Nani, Papa, Tommy, all my family, thanks for the support.
What a day it's been. A lot of action on the water, and as you can see, the skies have opened up. Lightning is crashing, so we're going to do a condensed version, but couldn't say anything was condensed when it came to the support of our great sponsors, especially General Tire and our friends from Toyota. So without further ado, he's a former Bassmaster Classic champion, former Bassmaster Angler of the Year, former Cup winner, and Invitational winner. Please welcome up, winning his first ever Bass Pro Stage, from Auburn, California, representing General Tire, and Berkeley, with 54 pounds, 3 ounces, 23 scoreable bass. Big one went 4:05. Mr. Skeet Reese! Oh, everyone was so emotional about this win that even the skies opened up and rained down upon you. What a day. A lot of confidence in the early part of the morning, but, man, that last hour, man, it was a nail-biter for everybody.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that was an absolute, I went from being, I got this, no problem, to like, oh crap, what's going to happen? I'm trying to catch everything I can, and Sprague just got on a tear, so thank goodness I built up a big lead early, and, fortunately it was, like he just said, it was meant to be, and I'm gonna hold that trophy, and that means a lot. But I'm right. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, you've seen it lifted over 40 times. You know what to do. Come over to this end of the stage, and when he hoists it up, let's make some noise for the General Tire Stage 6, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts champion, Mr. Skeet Reese.
So there you have it. Skeet Reese wins the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour Stage 6 at the James River. And look, I don't want to take any credit for any sort of Tackle Talk good luck or anything, but all I'm going to say is there has been a bit of a pattern of folks coming on Tackle Talk and then immediately winning or having success on the tournament circuit. Think back, like the last Major League Fishing angler that we had on the show was Drew Gill. We had him on not too long after, boom, he wins MLF Stage 5 at the Chowan River. We also had Jacob Wheeler on to start the season, and then what happens? He wins MLF Stage 2 and MLF Stage 3 right after. So I'm obviously like semi-joking here, but there is a pattern starting, and I think it's awesome to see. There's nothing cooler than having the chance to sit down with someone on this show, get them to open up, talk about their fishing style, techniques, tips, and then they almost immediately have this monumental moment or victory. So we are super pumped for Skeet, and not only was it the week that he was on our show, the championship round was on his 55th birthday, which makes that one heck of a birthday present. And if you guys want a little sneak peek, like behind the curtain, Skeet and I were talking before we even started recording a few weeks ago for that episode, and I asked him as we were getting ready to flip the record button on and stuff, we were just kind of, shooting the bull, and I said, "Are you excited for the James River?" And he did not seem pumped about it. He didn't say anything specifically that he didn't like it. He just obviously didn't have a ton of history there recently. He didn't seem to be overly confident going into this event, but obviously none of that matters, because at the end of the day, the end of his birthday, the end of the week that he just happened to be nice enough to stop on Tackle Talk, Skeet Reese is left holding a giant red trophy and a $100,000 check. So massive congratulations to Skeet Reese, who gets it done on the James River, and the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour looks to close out their season at Stage 7 at the St. Lawrence River for a smallmouth beatdown August 6th through 11th. All right, next up, boys and girls, we have the Bassmaster Elite Series event that was just held at Lewis Smith Lake in Cullman, Alabama, and that was June 27th through 30th, so going on around the same time. Now, this event was what you would probably call a grinder, right? There were close weights, not too many giant bags by today's standards, a lot of spotted bass, offshore, forward-facing sonar, right? You had it all. But when the dust settled after 4 days at the Bassmaster Elite Series at Smith Lake, your top 10 shaped out to be 10th place Justin Hamner, 9th place Cody Huff, 8th was JT Tompkins, 7th place Kyle Patrick, 6th place Cooper Gallant, 5th place Tyler Williams, 4th Corey Johnston, 3rd Jay Shakurit, 2nd Robert Gee, and 1st place another one of our buddies and past guest of the show, the one and only Taku Ito.
Let's get him rolling this way. His infectious childlike excitement is loved all across the country. He came to America chasing the Bassmaster dream, and he is now a 4-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier. He's a member of the Bassmaster Century Club. He's an Elite Series champion, and Smith Lake is his favorite lake in the country. From Japan, get loud for Takumi Ito. Boom, shakalaka, giant bass. What a giant fish. That fish may just be the biggest fish we've seen in this entire tournament. Wow. What a championship Sunday for Takumi Ito. He's got 5 fish here today. Our biggest fish of the entire tournament is 4.9. I do not think that is the case anymore. Let's get a weight here. Takumi Ito, trying to become a 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series champion, has 5 fish. He is looking for 12 pounds, 8 ounces. Looking for 12 pounds, 8 ounces. 5 fish today. 16 pounds, 9 ounces. The Crush City Monster bag of the tournament. And with 58 pounds even, Takumi Ito is a 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series champion. Big bass, big stage, big dreams, and Takumi Ito weighs into a song called Smallmouth Disneyland. You might have to change that to Spotted Bass Disneyland.
Oh yes, 100% Spotted Bass Disneyland, right? Smith Lake. So Smith Lake is the most favorite lake in US. So for me, so very, very awesome lake. So and I found a taku point, and I found a taku tree. Many 5-pounder, the 6-pounder spotted bass, I think. So I found the Spotted Bass Disneyland, so very happy today.
Are you ready to hold it? Last time you had trouble holding the trophy, I had to help you. You told me you've been eating a lot of steak and working out. Do you think you're going to be able to do it by yourself this time?
So yes, I eating a steak every day. I think the whole week, the 5 times eat a steak. Hopefully, I want to hold a big trophy. If I cannot, please follow me. Okay. So always Dave backside follow. I'm very happy.
Okay.
Yeah. If I cannot, so please follow me.
I will catch it if you can't. But to make it official, the TNT fireworks, a Bassmaster Elite on Smith Lake belong to Takumi Ito. Takumi Ito dominates the TNT fireworks, a Bassmaster Elite on Smith Lake. And Takumi Ito is a 2-time Bassmaster Elite Series champion.
So yeah, you just cannot help but be pumped anytime you see Taku have success. Like, he has this childlike excitement and passion for the sport of bass fishing, and you can always tell that he's not taking any of this wild ride for granted. He is extremely grateful, he's humble, and in a world where it seems like so much of tournament fishing news and hot topics and all that kind of stuff are consumed by negativity and drama and all that junk, Taku remains this like beacon of positivity, and he embodies everything that I wish all of pro bass fishing was. We also had some familiar faces in this top 10 as well. We had recent guest Kyle Patrick, past guest Jay Shakurit. We had some young hammers like Robert Gee, Tyler Williams, Cooper Gallant. Just a fun event to watch, because going into the final day, I think you had the top 3 anglers that were all separated by just a few ounces. I think like 3 or 4 ounces. You had an entire top 10 that was separated by like 3 pounds going into the final day. So you truly went into the last championship round not knowing who was going to win this thing, which is what we as bass fans, I feel like, always want. We want these really close, fun events to come down to the wire versus these multi-day blowouts that a lot of times we do see. So hats off to Taku, who gets to hold up his second blue trophy, now a 2-time Bassmaster champion, as the Elite Series gears up for their last 2 events of the season, August 8th through 11th at Lake Champlain, and then August 15th through 18th at the St. Lawrence River. All right, everybody, that catches us up on the tournament side of things. Now let's get to one of the main reasons why you tune into Tackle Talk, I'm assuming, as we, you guessed it, talk tackle. All right, everybody. This is Andrew from the future, or at least a couple days into the future after I recorded this episode. I wanted to hop back in here. I wanted to talk to you guys for a second because you are about to hear an episode that was recorded a few days ago. Since then, obviously, more information has came out about what's coming out at ICAST. Bassmaster released their initial new product preview, which has like 100-something plus items on it that'll be coming out at ICAST 2024 from all kinds of brands, Strike King, Lose, Rapala, everybody. There's a bunch of stuff on that list. Now, what we're not going to do today is we're not going to go over that list in detail because it's not the full list of everything that's coming out at ICAST. It's a preview. It's some of the items that are coming out that some of these people have okayed to say, yes, we want to go ahead and tease this, and Bassmaster has released those. This is by no means the whole list of everything that's coming out at ICAST. We know that for a fact because we here at Tackle Talk know about a ton of products coming out at ICAST that are not on that list, that are still secret, and the brands don't want the public to know about yet. So this is by no means a comprehensive list. You will hear over the next couple days and probably week or so, a lot of people hop on YouTube or hop on lives or do whatever and talk about a lot of these products and kind of break them down. That's fine, but it's not the full list yet. So I think some people might kind of jump the gun on this one a little bit and really say, oh, ICAST is going to suck. Look at the list that came out. There's nothing cool on here. I can promise you there's a lot more coming out at ICAST this year than what's on this list, just based on what we know from people we've talked to and people we know at different companies. So I just wanted to pop in a little bit here really fast and say, yes, I know that list was released. I know there are more products now that are public and people know are going to be coming out. But since it's not the full list, I don't want to do a full breakdown of it yet. So instead, we're going to break down, obviously, all of the offerings from one company, one big company in particular, you're going to hear about here in just a second, where we will go through all of the information they've released so far. I think that makes a little bit more sense. We'll kind of take this piece by piece and we'll focus on one thing today because obviously here in 2 weeks we have the ICAST episode, which will go over everything. I don't want to sit here and do too much speculation about what's good, what's bad, what might suck, what might be awesome, because that's the whole point of us flying down to Orlando to actually go touch these products, to feel these products, and to report back. I don't want to do that in total just yet. I want to talk about them after we've had a chance to get a little bit better opinion on each of them. So again, just wanted to pop in and say, yes, if you go over to bassmaster.com, you can click the 2024 new product preview. You can see some of the items that they've already teased and released. Again, giant disclaimer, it is by no means a comprehensive list of everything that's coming out at ICAST this year. It's a small sliver of what you're going to see at 2024 ICAST. All right, everybody. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. And as many of you know, July is the most fun time, I think, in bass fishing all year long when it comes to tackle, because July is when the heavy majority of new products get announced to the public for the first time. It's not really in the spring. It's not really around the Bassmaster Classic. Sometimes it is. It's not really around the holiday season or Black Friday or whatever. It's July. And the reason it's July is because July is when we hold ICAST. ICAST, obviously, the trade show where a lot of these companies are rolling out their new products. July is just the time where we as bass anglers get to have fun and look at the new things that'll be hitting shelves in the coming months. And a few weeks ago, we had a mailbag question where I tried to be pretty honest and tell you guys how I try to conduct this show when it comes to new gear and handling spoilers and leaked information and things like that. But I also said at the very end of that episode, we were getting to the time frame where brands themselves were going to start announcing their new products or leaking some hints to the public. So that means some of these new products are now fair game to talk about. And that's what we're going to do today. We are going to go through some of the very recently announced 2025 products from one of the biggest companies in fishing, Daiwa. So Daiwa recently announced all of these new products. They're going to be coming out at ICAST. They just put out a giant list on the website. There's specs, there's models, there's all kinds of stuff. Just a dream for people like me that just are waiting and chomping at the bit to look at the new gear. They just straight up put it all out. So we're going to talk about that today. And Daiwa, I think you probably have to tip your hat to that they're probably what I would call one of the big two when it comes to a well-rounded, dependable, kind of workhorse established brand in the fishing rod and reel category, I think Daiwa is there. I think you can pretty much make the argument Daiwa and Shimano are your clear top two in the fishing industry right now when it comes to fishing rods and fishing reels. They're definitely your two big dogs. Well, Shimano this year has kept their products pretty close to the chest so far, even though, as public, we can make some educated guesses about what might be coming out based on some of the products that we've seen recently go on sale or clearance pricing that we've seen across the industry. Poison Adrena. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. But while Shimano has been very sneaky and has not been so forthcoming with everything that's coming out so far, Daiwa, on the other hand, decided to drop the bomb and release all of their major ICAST releases a full 2 weeks early. So I got the email. I got an alert around noon on July 3rd. That's when Daiwa released all of this and it hit the public, and I immediately went into research mode and recon mode to decide what I was most excited about and what I could do without. Okay, so let's jump right into this here, and we're going to start with the new reels that Daiwa will be coming out with at ICAST 2024. The first reels, I don't know, maybe you saltwater guys care about this. I really could not care less. But they have like the 24 Seaborgs, which are like these $3,000 saltwater reels that you can fight a, swordfish or something with. They're electronic, they're power assisted. These things are like hardcore saltwater stuff. They also have new 24 Tanacums, which are 500 size. Again, same thing, big saltwater reels, clicker reels, or whatever they're called. Things that are very much out of our league, and we do not need to really concern ourselves with. Same thing with the Saltiga Jigging Star Drag and the 2024 Certate SW. They have a new 24 Soul MQ. Again, all of this stuff is saltwater. A bunch of you saltwater guys or inshore guys that are listening to this might care about it. I really, honestly do not. All right, everybody, we'll get back to the episode here in just a second, but before we do, we are brought to you in part by Mossy Oak. And I don't know if I can give you a better testimonial of Mossy Oak's fishing apparel than to just tell you about my last few weeks. So 2 weeks ago, we went to Columbus, Ohio to watch our buddy Billy Strings play at Buckeye Country Superfest. And it was in a giant football stadium, like 60,000 people, shoulder to shoulder, sitting on metal bleachers in like 100+ degree weather in direct sunlight. And I looked around and I saw people sweating their tails off. We're talking pit stains, back sweat for days, but I was wearing my Mossy Oak short sleeve tech shirt. And let me tell you, even though it was hot out, I was probably the least miserable person there. I felt cooler, I wasn't sweaty, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it was probably the reason that I was able to enjoy myself that day. Then, fast forward like the next 2 weeks on the water, we have record highs, a heat wave here in Ohio, and I went out on the water all day long, multiple days, with my long sleeve tech shirts on, and I didn't get burnt once on my arms, my back, or my neck. Any other year, I would have blisters right now because I'm stubborn and I don't wear sunscreen. Well, now I have the gear to protect myself, and that right there is why you should check out Mossy Oak. So head over to www.store.mossyoak.com, click fishing at the top of the page to see their full line of apparel, and be prepared for those long summer days on the water. Again, that's www.store.mossyoak.com. But on the reel side, we are getting one new spinning reel and two new casting reels on the freshwater bass fishing side of things from Daiwa. So the spinning reel that we're getting at ICAST 2024 is the brand new 24 Kage LT. And this is an updated Kage from Daiwa, priced at $249.99. And Daiwa themselves say the Kage LT, and it's spelled Kage, so it looks like cage. But the Kage LT is lighter by weight, yet strong and rigid. The body is constructed of Zayon, a high-density carbon strain material that is 20% stronger and 50% lighter than traditional nylon and aluminum. The true carbon body is reduced in size and weight, yet provides a rigid framework for the powerful gearing. The design incorporates the air bail and the air rotor systems that reduce the weight by 15%, yet provide strength and rigidity. The aluminum digi-gears are precision cut for a smooth, powerful performance with less weight. A unique premium cork handle knob looks smart yet provides a solid grip. The smooth and powerful ADT drag system will stop the largest game fish. The advanced spinning reel can be utilized for a variety of freshwater and light saltwater applications. So that's from Daiwa. Really, it looks like we're getting 5 models here. You're getting 1,000, a 2,000, a 2,500, a 3,000, and a 4,000, which all have a weight range from 6 ounces flat for the 1,000 up to 7.8 ounces for the 4,000. You've got 11 pounds of max drag on the 3 smaller models, and then the 22-pound drag for the size 3,000, 26.4 pounds of drag for the 4,000. Now, the 3,000 and the 4,000 both go up in price a little bit, so for those of you that are often bouncing around between 2,500 and 3,000, I might recommend the 2,500 because it's like $20 cheaper. If you go up to the 3,000, you're going to start paying $269. That's $20 more than your 1,000, your 2,000, and your 2,500. So it looks sharp. It's an all black body, red accents on the spool, just sort of a small, thin red outline down the lower 2 contour lines of that spool. The rest is black and silver with a blonde cork handle. So very clean, a reel that you could pair with almost any rod and it wouldn't look out of place. And I actually really do like that cork knob compared to some of the cheaper, EVA or hard plastic or hard, almost rubber or whatever they are. So I do like the idea of that cork knob. So that's the Kage LT. And then on the casting reel side, we're getting 2 new Daiwa Tatulas. They're going to be the 24 Tatula SVs, and they come in a 100 and a 150 size. So let's start with the Tatula SV 150. Daiwa says, searching for a bit larger profile for better comfort as well as a better, larger, heavier bait casting reel, this feature provides the angler with a benefit of added distance as well as a spool control and backlash reduction. SV pairs up with the T-Wing level wind system, and the result is maximum casting distance with near zero backlashes, even when casting into the wind with non-aerodynamic baits. The precision aluminum frame is tough and keeps the weights to an absolute minimum, with Daiwa's hyperdrive system, which offers smooth, effortless cranking. This reel is equipped with the Ultimate Tournament Carbon Drag, UTD, and a large 100mm swept handle. So we'll know more about this when we get down to ICAST and actually pick these up, but basically it looks like the Tatula SV got a facelift. The specs, from what I can see, are almost identical if you compare the new 24 Tatula SV with the old Tatula SV TW103 or whatever they were called. They have the exact same gear ratios, the exact same line per turn rate, except the 8-to-1, which is 0.1 inches off of the old model. So for all intents and purposes, these are the exact same. The capacity is the same. The drag is the same bearing count. The only thing spec-wise I can see, ironically, is that the new Daiwa 24 Tatula SV100 is 0.2 ounces heavier than its old predecessor, which is weird to me because it seems like, reel companies are always trying to make things lighter, even if it's 0.1, 0.2 ounces from the last model. Like lighter on the box, and the specs of the weight seem to be something that every reel brand is going for, and Daiwa kind of went the opposite way with 0.2 ounces difference on this, at least from what I can see. Then the new Daiwa Tatula SV also comes in $10 more expensive than the old ones, which I believe were $209 MSRP. These new Tatula SVs are $219 MSRP. So if we want to look at the sizes here really fast, right, the 150 is obviously just a little bigger than the 100, but you're basically getting the same reel, just in a slightly larger package with the 150 than you are with the 100, which is cool because that SV spool is lighter. It's a better spool that lets you cast farther, cast lighter lures better. It's kind of like the MGL spool in the Shimano world. For those of you who like Shimano reels, it's kind of the same thing. That SV spool, I don't think has ever been in a reel this big, or at least, again, that I can think of in the tattoo line. You guys tell me, I could be wrong, but I don't think it has been. So if you're looking for a bigger spool for frogging, for swim baits, for chatter baits, anything really that you're just going to bomb cast or use heavier line on, that 150 could be a really nice option versus your 100. The other cool thing about the 150 is it has a slightly larger handle on it, obviously. So it's got that 100mm swept handle that Daiwa is touting now, supposedly leading to like less wobble of the rod and reel in your hand. It's just supposed to be a more refined, efficient crank, supposedly, than the past handles they've had. So in the end, we're getting 2 new Daiwa Tatula SVs coming out, a 100 and a 150. And then you've also got the Daiwa Kage LT spinning reel, which have both been officially announced by Daiwa. Now, if we want to go to the rod side of things, again, a lot of saltwater rods, a lot of inshore rods. We don't really care too much about those. Scrolling down here, scrolling down, and then we get into some freshwater rods that are coming out at ICAST 2024 from Daiwa. The one that I'm probably most excited for is the new redesigned Kage rods. So they're calling these the 24 Kage Premium Bass rods. And on these rods, we're looking at an MSRP of $199, it says. Then from Daiwa here, it says, the clean design and state-of-the-art construction put these Kage bass rods in the hands of anglers ranging from the most serious of weekenders to accomplished bass pros. The fit and finish of these fishing tools are impeccable. The sleek black look and fine wrapping evoke quality. The blank constructs are tailored for the specific demands of today's bass fishermen. So it looks like we're getting 12 models here in the casting rods and then only 3 models in the spinning rods, all of which are labeled by technique. So on the casting side, we have some rods designated for jerkbait, power jerkbait, crankbait, finesse frog and jig, universal, moving bait versatile, multi-purpose, jig/skip, frog, light swim bait, medium swim bait, and heavy swim bait. And then on the spinning rods, you've got a Ned rig rod, a universal spin, and then an all-around, it says. So you've got most of your standard lengths and powers that you're going to need throughout this lineup. A few that stick out to me, I think they have one that's labeled jerkbait, but its specs are a 6.8 medium light, regular action, which is Daiwa's way of saying moderate. So in reality, this is a 6.8 medium light, moderate casting rod. And that to me almost sounds BFS. Now, the BFS pros out there might get mad at me and say, right, there's something wrong with this rod that makes it too normy for diehard BFS anglers. I know they're kind of like an interesting breed sometimes, like the super, super hardcore BFS people. So I'm sorry if that is blasphemy for some of you BFS bros out there. I apologize. But to me, again, regular Joe, dumb bass angler, I'm looking at this 6.8 medium light, moderate casting rod, screams BFS to me. They also have a finesse frog and jig rod that looks like a really weird model. It's between a medium heavy and a heavy. It's a 7 foot and it's listed at regular, which again is moderate. So just an oddball rod that might be fun to play with. I'm thinking probably chatterbaits, maybe big spinner baits on a rod like that versus finesse frog and jig. I'm probably at least not going to use more of a moderate rod for jigs. Some people might, and that's okay. But to me, that sounds more like a bladed jig and a spinnerbait rod to me. And then I'm also really excited to test out the frog rod. They have a 7.4 heavy extra fast that's just going to be a whooping stick. And I have a 7.4 heavy Tatula rod from Daiwa that, again, is an absolute beefcake of a rod. So I'm sure this rod will be along those same lines. I am excited to try that one. And then if we want to look at this rod, at least from the photos, the looks of this rod are awesome. It's got a cork handle. It's got a red metallic, like reel seat, like a deep red, not like a bright fire engine red, a classy, deep, dark red. And then it's a black rod with very few red accents along the side of it. Just a clean looking rod. This might be one of the better looking rods, just aesthetically, right? Just looking at it and saying, that looks cool. This might be one of the better looking rods I've seen in a while come out from any brand. So I'm excited to see it in person. Hopefully it doesn't just look cool in the pictures. Hopefully it looks cool when I actually get the chance to pick it up too. I will let you guys know. My only gripe on this one is going to be that all of the handles look like they're full cork. I don't see any split grips in this lineup at all. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. This should be a cool line of rods at around $200 coming in from Daiwa and the Kage lineup. Okay, so from here, we're going down in price. That was a $200 rod. The very next rod we have from Daiwa is very affordable. It's $69.99, and it's the brand new 24 Fuego Series bass rods. Another line of rods that's getting a much-needed facelift. We saw the new Fuego spinning reels come out maybe a year or two ago. I can't remember when that was. One of the past few years at ICAST, and now we're getting the rods. And Daiwa says, Fuego rods have all of the high-quality features, including lightweight graphite construction and comfortable EVA material handles. Fuego rods have all of the high-quality features, including lightweight graphite construction and comfortable EVA material handles. So we've got 8 casting rods and 9 spinning models in this lineup, a ton more spinning models than the Kage obviously have, so that's nice to see. But what's interesting is that these rods are much more standard and plain in their different models that they offer. So of the 17 rods that are in this new Fuego lineup, 15 of the 17 rods are just plain fast action. You only have one rod that has a moderate action, and it's a really small jerkbait kind of top water rod that they have, and then you have one spinning rod that's an extra fast, and that's it. Almost every single rod in this Fuego lineup is just a regular fast rod, so that's interesting to me. 17 rods, 15 of them are fast. Now these do come in a split grip, which I do like, and they get a cosmetic makeover from their old Fuego counterparts. And I'm going to go ahead and say this, again, I try and keep it as honest with you guys as possible. I do not love the look of this new rod. At least from the pictures, it doesn't look great to me, and I know all of that is very subjective and it's personal preference thing, but this rod is almost all black with red accents, except right above the top of the handle, there's one part on this rod, kind of where the label usually is, where it says like the power and action, stuff like that. That section of the rod fades to this sort of muted ice gray color, and then it fades back to black on the other end of it, and that goes all the way up the top of the rod. The rest of it's black. So the entire rod is black except for this one weird faded gray section right in the middle of the rod where like the, name and label and size and stuff would normally be. It just looks weird to me. The other thing that looks weird from the pictures is that the butt section of this rod, that like EVA portion at the bottom of the handle, looks bigger than the older Fuego. Again, I'm going to have to see it in person. We will see it for ourselves here in a few weeks, but from the picture, that butt section of this rod looks different. It looks bigger, and that can be kind of annoying if it's too big and too bulky. But what you do have here is one of Daiwa's most affordable tournament-ready rods at under $70 that got a facelift. So I'm excited to see how this rod feels, because at the end of the day, that's the important thing. It's not what this rod looks like. I don't care what it looks like. You guys have heard me preach that a billion times. I'm not buying rods or reels or any fishing gear, really. Maybe lures might be the only exception, because of how they look. Obviously, the way a lure looks is important. But, for rods and reels, things like that, I don't care really what they look like. That doesn't matter as much to me as performance and durability and things like that. So we will see how these rods hold up, but you do get some new Fuegos from Daiwa in 2024. And finally, the last rod that we're getting here in the bass lineup from Daiwa in 2024 is the 24 Daiwa Laguna rods, which are extremely affordable rods at $39. And this is something that I think sometimes gets overlooked from Daiwa sometimes, is their lower end rods. Oftentimes we forget about the $30, $40, $50 rods that are lesser knowns from Daiwa, but they do have available for folks on a budget. Anybody who's ever been to like a local fishing expo has probably seen these rods. I don't know the name of them. They're from Daiwa or Team Daiwa or whatever they say. They're always like buy one, get one free, or buy two for $60 or whatever at your local expo and show. But those rods that are kind of like black and gold and stuff like that, Daiwa makes some really good, very inexpensive rods. They're just not talked about very often. They're kind of, again, the lower end. They're not getting marketed as much because, again, they're worried about their Tatulas and their Steezes and their Zillions and things like that. Daiwa makes good, cheap rods if you're looking for cheap rods. So in 2024, we are getting an updated Laguna rod from Daiwa that's going to come in at $39. So that's the majority of the freshwater rods and reels that we get from Daiwa. They did have some other BFS rod, I think, that came out, the PX Bass for like $300. Again, I'm not a huge BFS guy, so I didn't spend a ton of time looking at that one. And then we get into the miscellaneous stuff here. So Daiwa announced 2 lures, both primarily saltwater, that are going to come out in 2024. They have the 24 Smelthead DLX, which is an underspin, and then the 24 Tournament D-Fin, which is a soft plastic swim bait type bait. Now, again, this isn't very important for us as bass anglers, except the underspin looks almost identical to the Nishini Lure Works Smelthead swim bait head. And judging from the fact that it has almost the exact same name, right? The Smelthead, which is what Nishini calls theirs, the exact exact same head design, I would assume that Daiwa did this in collaboration with Nishini Lure Works, who is, I think, one of the coolest, most underrated tackle companies out there that we should spend some more time talking about. We probably will after ICAST. So that's cool to see, right? I hope that those two are working together, because if they are, we could see some really cool things coming out to us as bass anglers in the future. You have a giant like Daiwa working with a really creative, innovative small company like Nishini. All right, and then last but not least here, Daiwa announced a few new lines they're going to come out with in 24 as well. They're going to come out with J Fluoro. They've got the 24 Samurai braided line, which is an 8 carrier braid, and then they have the 24 Samurai X12 braid, which is a 12 strand version of braid. So for you Daiwa line guys and gals out there, you do get some new offerings on that front. But overall, I'm excited for the Daiwa Tatula SV 100 and 150. I'm excited for the Kage rods and the Kage LT reels. The rest, we'll maybe see how they look at the show. Maybe the Fuego, maybe the Lagunas will surprise us, but I will report back here in a few weeks on those. But that is your 2024 Daiwa new product showcase recap in a nutshell. All right, everybody, we'll get back to the episode here in just a second, but first, we are brought to you in part by Dakota Lithium Batteries. And I have to tell you guys, over the holiday weekend, I was lucky enough to get 4 days off in a row, and of those 4 days, I was able to sneak out and fish 3 days in a row, which is tough to do with my job, especially in the summertime. So I was able to go muskie fishing, I went frogging at a big lake, I went up and down the river for miles, all on a single charge of my Dakota lithium batteries. My motor powered me all 3 days, my electronics were on all 3 days, and not once did I have to charge my Dakota lithiums. My 24 volt 60 amp hour and my 12 volt 46 amp hour are absolute champs, and it was so nice not to have to worry about that part of the equation on the water. That's because Dakota lithiums are twice the power of traditional batteries. They're half the weight. They charge up to 5 times faster, last up to 4 times longer. They have a 100% US-based customer support system, and they come with an 11-year warranty. So if you want your own Dakota lithium batteries, all you got to do, go over to www.dakotalithium.com and use code TACKLETALK5. That's going to save you 5% off your entire battery purchase. Again, that's code TACKLETALK5 over at www.dakotalithium.com, the official lithium battery of Bassmaster. All right, everybody, and finally here, we are going to get to the mailbag powered by Dakota Lithium.
This is the Tackle Talk Podcast mailbag, powered by Dakota Lithium Batteries. Adventure awaits at dakotalithim.com.
All right, the first question here in the Dakota Lithium mailbag is from Will Dixon, and he says, "Hey Andrew, what Abu Garcia casting reel at $100 price range would you recommend? I want a good all-around reel. I live in central Alabama, and I need to get away from my $35 Amazon reels. My second question is, what is the benefit of trimming skirts on bladed jigs or anything else? Love the podcast, thanks so much, and tight lines." Hey, Will, appreciate it. So you got 2 separate questions here. Let's start with the first. You're asking about an Abu Garcia casting reel, specifically in that $100 range. Now, I'm going to be honest here. Around the $100 range, Abu Garcia just isn't my favorite. They don't have a ton of great options in that competitive $100-ish range there. They do have a lot of great options that are way lower than $100, but they're a lot cheaper feeling. We're talking like Black Maxes, Silver Maxes, things like that. Good starter reels, but probably not what you're asking about here. And then you have some great $200 and $300 reels like the Revos and stuff like that. But that $100 price point really isn't Abu Garcia's strong suit. But if you're dead set on an Abu Garcia reel, right now I think the Revo SX is on sale at Bass Pro and Cabela's. I think they're normally $170. Right now they're right around $139. So that gets you kind of close to $100. The other thing, if you're really dead set on staying at $100, then I'd probably look at their Jordan Lee model. That's one of their better reels for $100, I think. And then your second question here was, what is the benefit of trimming skirts on bladed jigs? The reason that I do it, and the reason I think most people do it, is to keep that skirt material from covering or interfering with your trailer. So if I have a paddle tail swim bait on the back of my chatterbait, and there's a long skirt that's just draped over the entire swim bait, then as it's going through the water, that skirt's going to hinder the action of that paddle tail. It's not going to kick like it was supposed to. Same thing with a crawl with flapping appendages. Same thing with a grub with a curly tail on the back of it. Whatever you have as a trailer, I like to make sure my skirt is not touching any moving part of that trailer so I get the full action out of it. So that's why at least I trim my skirts. The next question is from Hunter DePaulo, and he says, "Hey, Andrew, do you have any tips on fishing rivers with a lot of rock or white water? Not like you see in videos, whitewater rafting, but some white water depending on the depth and the amount of rocks in a given area. I've been fishing openly flowing rivers with a few riffles scattered here and there, but I want to try some new places that I've heard contain big fish, but also many rocks. For what it's worth, I'll also be waiting. Thank you. Love the show. Keep up the good work." Hey, Hunter. So yeah, you're definitely right. I think if you can find those fast moving riffles and those areas with big rock, those are definitely fishy areas most of the time in our rivers, at least. You've got so many ambush spots for bass to sit where that rock or whatever it is, right, can just break up that current a little bit so that fish doesn't have to exert as much effort to sit there, and then it can just bum rush anything that gets swept by it by the current. But the tough part of fishing those areas is fishing them effectively. Now, the nice part about when you're writing this question in is that it's summertime, it's July, it's prime topwater time, which is definitely an easier way to fish those types of areas because obviously it's topwater. That means less snags, less obstructions. You can just run a topwater through those big, heavy current, big rocky areas. Big buzzbaits, whopper ploppers, spooks, poppers, depending on the strength of your current is what you can get away with. But man, I will tell you, this is one of the few places where I think a whopper plopper or a choppo or any type of prop bait really shines. You can cover so much water and such fast moving water effectively when you have something like a floating prop bait than any other type of bait. So that is my number one suggestion. I don't really say this a whole lot because I think there's better options a lot of times, but this is a time when you can throw a whopper plopper, you can throw a choppo, and it's one of the only baits I think that I can cover that area effectively to make sure that I'm hitting the exact spots I want to hit and covering as much water as possible without having to worry about bumping around or getting caught or snagged or whatever in those rocks. After that, I would probably go to drifting something. So you can get something that's weedless, some sort of EWG Ned or jig or something like that you can cast up in that current and you can let it drift and sort of tumble naturally down that current run. But man, right now, I would say from now until late fall, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to burn a topwater across those types of areas. The next question is from Drew Coco, and he says, "Hey, Andrew, first off, thanks for putting together the best, most informative fishing podcast out there. I look forward to the new episodes every Tuesday. I grew up trout fishing and inshore saltwater fishing, but in the last year or so, I've gotten into kayak bass fishing, and your podcast has helped me tremendously. In fact, I caught my first buzz grub bass this morning, literally the second time I've thrown that lure, and on my first cast, a bass gulped it down not 2 seconds into the retrieve. Anyway, my question is, do you typically store your jigs, also bladed jigs, anything with a trailer really, rigged with trailers already attached, or do you wait until the night before, or even until you're on the water to rig them up? Related to this, I know you can't store Z-Man plastics with other soft plastics, but is there a concern with leaving Elastec trailers on a jig stored in a tackle box? Thanks again. Keep up the great work." Hey, Drew, I appreciate you writing in. Awesome to hear about the first buzz grub bass. That is something that, again, will never get old to me, is just micro buzzbait fishing. That lure just seems to find fish. If those of you that are new here and not listening don't know what we're talking about, go to jigmasters.com, go to lures. I think there's a spot that says Tackle Talks Picks maybe. But if you go in there, he has something called the micro buzz that we helped design a couple years ago. And it's just made to harness like a 3-inch grub on the back, and just either you can burn it, you can wake it, there's all kinds of stuff you can do, but a little 3-inch micro buzzbait that just gives those fish a completely different look they're not used to seeing. So that's awesome. I appreciate it, Drew. I'm glad you had fun with that lure. But to your question, when do I rig up my trailers? I typically do it when I'm on the water that morning. And here's why. Because I think I know what the water conditions are going to be the night before, but until you actually get on the water, you have no idea. Is it clear? Is it stained? Is it slightly stained? Is it chocolate milk? Are we talking 4 inches of visibility versus 5 inches versus 6 inches, 8 inches, a foot? Around here, that stuff can change by the hour. And I think seeing the water conditions and the clarity especially helps me pick the right trailer, and it makes a big difference for me. So maybe if I would have done it the night before, I would have put on pure green pumpkin, and then I get out to the water, it's a little dirtier than I expected, and then darn it, I wish I would have put on green pumpkin magic or, a flaky type color or something instead. Maybe I wish I would have gone darker. I wish I would have gone flashier. Maybe I wish I would have put on something that had a little bit more action. So a lot of times I wait until I'm out on the water so that I have a better idea of what I want to put on. I might have a fairly good idea the night before, but just to be safe, I'm going to wait till the next day when I'm actually out there and can see the water conditions. That also gives my trailer less time out of the bag to get kinked or dry out or damaged or whatever. Now, I do have jigs and chatterbaits and things like that have trailers on them from the last time I used them. Yes, I obviously do that. I don't automatically take off my trailers before I put something in the box for the day because I think that's wasteful. So I'll leave it on for sure. Yes, in some cases it may crinkle and I do need to change it the next time, but whatever. If I pull it out and it's still great, well then awesome. I just got another use out of that trailer. I didn't just take it off and throw away after, a day of use. So no, I will put them away with the trailer on them. I just make sure that I put them in a compartment that's big enough where that trailer doesn't get kinked or messed up or things like that. And usually the only time you have to worry about those trailers really getting messed up with most brands is in like extreme heat. So most brands will stay in your box or in your tackle box just fine, rigged up on a jig or a chatterbait or whatever, unless you expose them to extreme heat or you store them bent or things like that. Those are recipes for a ruined trailer. Now, I say most brands are fine because there are a few that are not fine. There are a few that under no circumstances would I store rigged up. One of those is Z-Man. Like you mentioned, Z-Man just ruins everything. It's great out on the water. They last forever. I understand that. But man, I just do not store things with the Z-Man trailers on them. Not only can they ruin themselves and they get cranked or whatever, they can ruin other plastic that's anywhere near them, but also they can ruin like the rubber skirt collars on your jig and a host of other things. It's also not just Z-Man. Any of those Elaz Tech-E type baits I wouldn't store already rigged up. So I'm talking like Nico baits, the Crush City BLT Neds, anything that's that super stretchy material, I just wouldn't risk it and I wouldn't do it. So in the end, yes, you can store your baits with trailers on them if you're careful and you put them away in a good position so they don't get bent. Don't put them away soaked. Make sure they're not exposed to extreme heat and make sure they're not around other baits from those few brands that don't play nice with other plastics, those really stretchy materials like Z-Man, Nico, Crush City, Ned BLTs, things like that. All right, the next question here is from Ron, and he says, "Hi, Andrew. I discovered your awesome podcast at the beginning of spring, and I've been binge listening ever since. I appreciate your honest, no-nonsense reviews. It's a breath of fresh air in this sponsor-driven time that we live in. My question is about upgrading my gear. I fish out of a kayak or a boat in northeastern Pennsylvania, targeting largemouth bass. For a few years now, I've lived off of a $99 bait casting combo, the Lose Xfinity from Walmart. I've actually got 3 of them. I'm financially in a position now to improve my gear, and last year I treated myself to a Corrado DC paired with a 13 fishing Meta rod. I know you're not a big DC fan, but I love my new combo, and I've made it my Texas rig rod as that is my preferred bait of choice. This year, I'd like to add another somewhat bougie combo for some other styles of lures. I'm leaning toward the new Fenwick HMG rod after hearing your episode about them. What reel would you recommend for around the $250 price point? I do really enjoy digital reels, so if you have a suggestion, I'd be open to either a traditional casting reel or a digitally controlled one too. Thanks for all you do. Tight lines, Ron." All right, so first off, the HMG, great rod choice. Again, we've talked about Fenwick a lot. They've got some brand new rods that feel awesome. Good choice there. But when you're talking about a reel to put on it, you said you do like the DC reels. So, man, you just might try the Shimano SLX DC. It's obviously a price-wise step down from your Corrado DC, but I think it would probably be nice for you to try out both of them. As much as you love that Corrado DC, you might find the SLX DC fits your needs just fine as well, and then you can get away with buying those reels for $100 less. But you are right, Ron. I am not a huge DC reel fan. For one, I just can't stand the sound of them. I don't know how people listen to that all day long. It's like nails on a chalkboard. This sound right here, that one right there, I can't stand that. I don't know how people do it. And because I've only ever used regular reels for so long, right? It's just what I'm used to. I like magnetic brakes. I like centrifugal brakes. It's all I've ever known, and they work great for me. But if you like the DCs, I would say that you should at least try, or maybe even just at least look into the SLX DC at some point, because it's just a more budget-friendly version of the reel you already like. Your other two options are you could just stick with another Corrado DC, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've done that plenty of times in my life. I find a reel that I really like, and then I buy multiple of them to put on multiple rods. I did that with Shimano Corrado Ks. I did it with 13 Inceptions a few years back. The old silver Inceptions from 13, I could find them on Facebook Marketplace for like $50 a piece. I would buy them every chance I got. I did the same thing with Bass Pro qualifiers for a while. So that's option 2. And then option 3 is just go for a regular non-DC reel. And in that $250 price point, there are a ton of options for you to choose from. You might even look into something like a Daiwa Zillion. They're a little bit more than your budget, but you can find them on sale. When I saw this question, I did a quick Google search and I found a place selling Zillion SVs for $249. So that's a great option. You've also got Daiwa Tatula 100s. That new body style that they came out with last year is really comfortable in the hand. But if it were me, I'd go with one of those 4 or 5 options, right? I would try the SLX DC if you could. Maybe just stick with another Shimano Corrado because you like them. No reason to change. Or if you want to look into like a higher end Daiwa, like a Zillion on sale or a Tatula 100, an SV, an Elite, something like that. All right, and our last question of the day here is from Mo, and he says, Andrew, I recently found your podcast and I've been catching up on episodes ever since. My story, I'm a troller. Not the internet type, but typically for salmon, trout, steelhead, etc. That being said, I am an idiot when it comes to fishing for bass, particularly smallmouth. I live in upstate New York, where some of the best bass fishing exists, and I feel like I'm missing out. So my question is, I want to leverage 5 of my spinning setups and re-spool them with bass-friendly lines. How would you break that up? Example, 2 reels with 50-pound braid, 1 reel with 35, 2 with 20-pound mono, etc. Thank you for any insights, Mo. Yeah, so the good news is you are definitely in the right place, right? You live in upstate New York where smallie fishing is awesome. I got the chance to go up there for the first time this year. It's pretty incredible. But man, if I was going to rig up spinning rods for smallmouth, I would keep it simple and efficient. I don't know what rods you're talking about. I don't know if you have like super heavy, long salmon rods or whatever. I don't know what you currently have or what you're using. But if I think regular spinning rods, like 7-foot, medium, fast, whatever, just your run-of-the-mill spinning rods, I would probably rig all of them up with like 10 to 15 pound braid. That's it. That'll get you through almost anything that you want to do smallie fishing up there. There's no need for 50-pound braid, especially on a spinning rod, unless for some reason you're like frogging with the spinning rod or something. But for almost everything that you'll be doing up there, drop shot, Ned, wacky rig, Nico rig, little spinners, top waters, paddle tails, tubes, all the smallmouth staples, you're usually fine with somewhere from 10 to 15-pound braid on spinning rods. But what you're also going to want is some leader material, because you're not going to want to throw straight braid the entire time. You are going to want to tie a leader. Now, the reason you don't do mainline fluorocarbon or mainline mono or whatever is because mainline fluorocarbon on spinning rods is a pain in the tail, right? I hate it. I can't do it. The line twists, everything. It makes me want to gouge my eyes out just thinking about throwing fluoro on a spinning spinning rod. So you use braid because of casting distance, because of sensitivity, all the great things that braid offers. The one thing it doesn't offer is obviously invisibility under the water. Line shy fish can see braid, and especially for like really clear water smallmouth, it's not ideal to throw straight braid. So what you're going to want is just a little fluorocarbon leader. So pack some, again, anywhere from, 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon, tie some double unis, and you're all set for the ones that you're actually going to be using for bottom contact stuff in super clear water. But for me, I wouldn't mess with putting fluorocarbon or monofilament or anything on those reels as a main line. Just a leader for your main line. Braid all day, baby. I'm going to go 10 to 15 pound braid, and you're ready to roll. All right, everybody, that is today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Appreciate you all. As always, go find us on the internet, tackletalkpodcast.com. There you can submit your own mailbag questions. If you've submitted one and we haven't got to it, it never hurts to submit more of them. You can submit as many mailbag questions as you want until you hear yours on the show. Again, it's unlimited. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to have their questions heard. So keep submitting your mailbag questions, tackletalkpodcast.com, click mailbag. Otherwise, find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook at Tackle Talk Podcast. Leave us a review if you can on Apple or Spotify, and we'll see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Tackle Talk Podcast. Tackle Talk is produced by Andrew Hayes. Copyright 2021. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.